People have been very disturbed by this next thing I'm going to talk about here. And it is disturbing, I might as well be honest with you, it is disturbing to see this, and the girls talking about this, and actually, it could be, again, the house they walked as me, the vote, and the cat just bought in a whiff. But again, to basically, I looked it up and I looked as much as I could into anything I could, any article I could, to see can the randomly stop you in the middle of the street. Say, take for example Mary or Emma. Let's use Emma for example. Emma's walking in the street and the guard just comes along and says, "Hey, you, give me your phone. If you don't give me your phone, it's 5 years in prison and a 20,000 euro fine." So that's this is where we're at the moment. This is where we're at. If you don't give them the password, say Emma has a password called, I don't know, Belgium stuff or something like that, and she refuses, say she refuses, because again, I'm sure the vast majority, if a girl came up and took your phone and said, "Give me your password," I'm sure the vast majority, if we had the in our face 5 years of prison or 20,000 euro fine, I'm sure the vast majority of people would comply. But again, it's outrageous. It really is outrageous, because unless they have authority by a judge, as far as I'm concerned, unless they had authority by a judge, if a judge signed off saying, they can take the phone of a person, or they seize the phone, take for example a drugs raid or whatever, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Like, let's be honest, that's fair enough. And then they can ask for the password if they need to. Again, that's reasonable cause. If they randomly raid a house and there's millions and millions of euro worth of drugs, to find out who's the other drug dealers, try and get their network, and they won't give them the password, then maybe the guards can apply pressure and say, "We can give you another 5 years if you don't do that." But again, this is what my fear is, that the guards will abuse this. And we've seen this happen. The guards the other day, for example, went into a mistaken identity, went into somebody's house, barged into somebody's house, and it was the wrong house. And again, it can happen, of course, but the way they handled it, the way they proceeded with doing it, barged in, and didn't apologise, barged in, and again, if they apologised and said, "Sorry, so we didn't mean to that, we talked with X, Y, and Z," but again, they've done the opposite. Again, some girls are just mad in power, because they're not held to account, because all these emergency powers are getting to their head. And we have to be honest with ourselves, this is just a demand fucking high-end power, and to be honest, like, this never would have been talked about a few years ago, because they've gone so high on power through Howard and the rest of them, they don't know when to stop. Again, when power gets to their head, they're never going to give it up unless they forcefully give it up. But again, I understand some of it, what they may be trying to do. Again, take for example this a person taking pictures of children in the playground. Take for example that. I actually, one case I remember a few years ago, where a person had a restraining order against his wife. Actually, no, she had a restraining order against him, and he was taking photos of her, going around stalking her basically. And the guards they apprehended him, and they didn't get the password or anything, but apparently he had pictures of her on her phone and everything, and then they couldn't make a case out of it. But you know what I'm saying? Like, in them instances where you have reasonable cause to, either hack the phone to get access to it or whatever. But this is far too extreme. Like, let's be honest, this is far too extreme. Like, take for example, I was going to say about Emma. Take for example, Emma comes down the street. It's randomly on her phone. Or not even on her phone. She's just in a park and walking on the street. Say she's a good looking girl or something like that. Take for example. I'm trying to make light of this very serious situation, but again, not to stress how serious this is again if it does go through, because again it can be abused, and we'll use that straight. It's very vague. Again, if a judge signed off on it, or signed off by the local superintendent or whatever to check this person's phone or whatever, then at least you can say the guards probably will have authority to stop you randomly and take your phone and say, give me your password for your phone, or I arrest you and I put you in your prison for 5 years or 20,000 euro fine. But take for example Emma coming down the street and she has leggings or whatever, and the guards up in arms with her or something like that. And he comes up to her and would know she did nothing wrong. She's walking on the street, and the guard's like, "Give me your password," and she says no. She could end up 5 years in prison or whatever. But again, guards can do that. Or say they don't like the look of you. You're a random civilian walking on the street, minding your own business, and you look at the guard cross-eyed or whatever, and the guard comes over with a baton in hand and say, "Give me your password, I'll beat you." Again, sounds like the Soviet Union, doesn't it? But again, this is where we're going. But again, this is the thing, it can be abused. Because if it's a random stop and search, because again, I read in an article that they can randomly stop you and search you and ask for your password. And again, this does breach, and again, this is what I see, and a lot of people, I asked a few people about it, they said it would be very unfeasible, because with European law, on data protection, it's very, very unlikely it will go through on that. That's the thing the government has to balance, the data protection law. And obviously privacy too. A gal can not just literally come up to you on a whiff and just say, give me a phone. And take for example in that case of Emma, just because maybe she has a boyfriend, the gal wants to find out who her boyfriend so we can put him in prison or whatever, so we can take her. Like again, some of these gals are not well on the head, and we have to be honest with ourselves here. But again, I am concerned. Again, if it was a judge, maybe in America, you have to get to tap a phone or something like that, or you have to get a judge, or to get an injunction or whatever. But from what I'm reading is that the guards will have the power on the beach to say, I don't like the look of this fellow, I'm going to take his phone. Imagine if a guard just came up to you. Again, I wouldn't give a guard, if a guard came up to me and said straight away, unless they had probable cause, to come up to me and say, give me your phone, I would tell them no. I would tell straight away, I tell them no, because again, I'm entitled to my privacy. But if if a guard got a court order or something like that, I would give it up, because again, it's been signed by a higher authority, and I assume they have reasonable cause, whatever. But take for example, if it's a guard on the beat and he just randomly doesn't like me for some reason, because I speak against the guard sometimes, and he's just like, I'm going to bully him, I might end up 5 years in prison, which I wouldn't be surprised if somebody just refused to give them the password and ended up 5 years in prison. It's just a typical country that will happen. And meanwhile, when the girls are talking about this, I don't know why they want to talk about this, but meanwhile with domestic violence, nearly I think it's 10,000 calls go unreported and go unanswered. In other words, the girls don't follow it up. There's no follow up. There's no girls looking into it. And take for example, Sharon down the road and her boyfriend Mickey or whatever. Are beating, like take for example, Mickey's beating her 24 hours a day, and controlling her money, controlling where she goes, controlling who she sees, who she talks to. That does happen unfortunately in this country, and it's sad reality, it does happen. And she rings for help, she rings her family, and the family goes to the guards, and the guards told about it, and they don't check it up, they don't bother to check it up, they couldn't be bothered, it's more writing, more reports. That's what happens. We have 10,000 that happen in the country. And it goes unanswered. The gals know about them and nothing's done about them. And that's the sad reality. And you think they'd be more worried about doing something about that than on a craze to try and get people's phones for some reason. And again, some people might say, again, I do understand. Again, what I mean by reasonable cause, just to explain myself. Take, for example, there's a, 70-something-year-old man or 60-something-year-old man around a children's playground with a phone taking pictures. And the gal sees them doing it. You would say that's reasonable cause, and I'm sure people agree with me. That's very suspicious activity. Or if there's a person around the back of a children's toilet or whatever in a school, with a phone, I get that's reasonable cause, and I'm sure people agree with me. Or he's around a young child. Some strangers around a young child with a phone. It is reasonable cause. We have to be totally honest with ourselves. It is reasonable cause to stop the person and ask, for his passion. That's understandable. I would, if the guards came along and said, we're going to only do this if we really do suspect somebody being around a minor or something like that with a phone or device taking pictures of them. I'd be like that's fine if you catch these people, because these people need to be caught and need to be apprehended. I'd be saying to the guards, more power to you. But again, this is what I fear. That they could be using this to police other matters and to do other things. And that's the fear. If they clarify that, saying, that's what we want to do, we want to go after people taking pictures of children, and nail down on these people domestic violence or sending child pornography pics or whatever. I'd be saying to the guards, that's fair enough, I understand. But again, I don't trust them, I don't trust the majority of the guards in this power, because again, it is if it does get passed, it's extraordinary powers to stop and sort people and demand the password, and if they don't give it, to get 5 years in prison or 20,000 fine. It's extraordinary powers. It really is extraordinary. I really do fear. I'd be totally honest with people, and I'm not trying to start this silly thing of trying to fight people into that, but I do fear about it. I wouldn't be talking about it if it didn't. If I think if it was worth anything that was good, I wouldn't say anything. I'd be saying, I support it. But again, that's the concern I have. I don't trust the majority of gals in the beat. If a judge, again, I don't trust the judges either, but at least if they signed off on it, at least they have some kind of, it's been looked into, and they have some kind of higher authority to say, you have the authority to ask this person by his phone to look through his phone or whatever. On this ground and the other ground, to have evidence to say, we suspect this person strongly of this. We have evidence here he was spotted behind the back of a school with a phone by Jimmy, the caretaker, and he reported on Garda in the corner. And he has CCTV footage of him taking pictures. You'd be like, that's probable cause. Let's go and get his phone. When they get a court order or whatever, to get his phone and to say straight to him, give me your phone, or I sentence to 5 years extra in prison. Again, I'm sure people agree that's reasonable cause. But again, I'm afraid of them abusing that as we use with Emma there. But yeah, thank you for watching. Take care, and hopefully, maybe, please God, it's not what I feel, but it might be. That's what I'm afraid of.